Pakistan cricket's been slowly erased. That's just, if you look over the last few years, like, listen, I don't leave them out of this. They've not helped themselves. You know, 35 chairmen, 55 selectors, 70 coaches, the whole shenanigans around that. If you're not performing on the field, we're going to go on to the batting in a minute. Your best player sat in Pakistan, you know, so they've not helped themselves. But, world cricket is looking the other way while Pakistan is being erased. Now, I wrote after the Champions Trophy game that this is a rivalry, India-Pakistan rivalry running on empty. And, everyone bigs it up as this big rivalry. Don't forget this rivalry financially, it's not just beneficial for India-Pakistan, it is for the world game. The reason this tournament is taking place is because of the broadcast money for the India-Pakistan game. That's just a fact.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
So Pakistan needs to realize that that game can't happen without them. And they don't play in the IPL. There's a lot of now tournaments that are IPL team owned. We saw the shenanigans recently with the World Cricket League in the UK. And sadly, too much of that all that is taking over from the rivalry. And the reality is, on Sunday, that game was pointless. It was pointless, and the gulf is so big now. The ground wasn't even full. So we're getting to the point where, on the field, Pakistan is not being able to compete against India, which means down the line, the broadcasters are going to say, hold on a minute, we're
Yeah.
not paying that same money for that game anyway. And that will not just affect Pakistan, that will affect Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and everyone else apart from England, Australia, and India. And, all well and good, look the other way, fine. But when it comes back to bite, just like it did in the Champions Trophy, everyone was fine about the fixtures being moved until South Africa and they realised that they'd have to travel left, right, centre, and all of a sudden, you know, everyone had a problem with the fixtures. But when Pakistan was trying to fight for their
It,
fixtures, no one stood up with them. So yeah, I think that, and I feel for the players. I really do feel for the players because I see, especially, I'll give you Afghanistan as an example. Their boys play in a lot of T20 tournaments, and that is why I think they are developing the way they
yeah.
are and starting to really, you improve by playing with the best. Pakistani players don't get them opportunities.
Yeah, 100%. Even the kind of renaissance, if you can call it that, with Sri Lankan cricket, is basically driven by the youngsters getting picked up by the IPL at a young age, Patarano
Mm,
and all these other players, and learning how to play this format and being around the best players and the best coaches, even though it's for a short period of time,
yeah,
it really ups their game. It's interesting what you said about the rights thing, right? Because if you look at me and you are British people who basically spend a lot of time outside of Britain, and what all maybe it's slightly different for you because obviously you have a professional background in cricket, but for me, when you're outside and people hear your accent, the first thing they talk about is the Premier League, right? And the way that's been built is basically because of the sanctity of the competition. If you look at, people in South America care about Brighton and Brentford. That is an absolutely wild thing for me,
yeah,
but it's because they value every team equally, right? And they've gone, right, when we get the TV money, we're going to split it up in a fair way. I'm not saying it isn't a case that everyone gets an equal amount, obviously, but they work with each other to try and create a product overall that people around the world want to watch. When me and you were kids, Italian league and Spanish league was what people were watching.
yeah,
Now it's the Premier League. ICC need to get. It's not the ICC. It's all the cricket boards together need to come together and figure this out and be like, India Pakistan's the jewel in our crown, right? That's our Man United versus Liverpool game, isn't it?
yeah.
Like we need to do everything we can to make sure that game is as intense and as you know there's as much of an equal chance of each other winning as possible and make it a proper rivalry. Because as you say, if that falls off the cliff,
Well, it
then
has.
cricket,
It's
yeah,
fallen, Mark. I've followed it a lot more closely last few years and watched. I watched them in New York
yeah,
in the T20 World Cup. I watched the Champions Trophy, and I watched on Sunday. It, there's, they're not even in the same league, and at some point the broadcasters are going to go, especially with the drama like today. I
yeah,
speak to sponsors and like different. they find cricket quite a difficult place to connect with because they don't know the fixture list, stuff like that. They find it very, very unprofessional in many ways. So yeah, I think it's watch this space around this because I think everyone's been warning of this for a while. Now we're there, and it'll be interesting when the new rights cycle. What actually happens with that.